Welcome to Pitch It To Me podcast, a show about the subjective past, present, and potential future of flesh and blood design. Today's episode will be a scattered pile of topics with little synergy between them, much like my last draft deck. On red pitch, Fuzzy asks us some important questions. On yellow pitch, Joel pontificates the power of pondering. And on blue pitch, Clark talks dollars and makes sense. You can find us across all socials such as TikTok and Instagram at Pitch It To Me Podcast.
I'm Joel.
I'm Clark.
And I'm Fuzzy. Why don't we talk about how our week went really fast?
Sure.
I'll go first. My week was dog shit.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Why?
Oh yeah, you guys already know. But I had my catalytic converter stolen from my car on like literally top of the week, like on Monday morning or Monday evening.
Do we think that catalytic converter thievery is like the most common crime in Los Angeles?
I
think jaywalking.
All right, Mr. Competitive and question answer.
Jaywalking much more common. Yep.
He's right. I just hate that he's right.
It's so dumb that he's right.
Yeah. Well, I was actually talking to my mechanic, and he said that this is a low season for catalytic converter theft. And I was like, I feel like this happens all the time to everybody, but I don't know.
The mechanic's like, yeah, I'm not able to buy that extra Lambo this month. Don't have those catalytic converter dollars rolling in.
So yeah, I had that happen to me. Threw off pretty much my whole week, and it was just a lot of compounding bullshit. So
yeah, that sounds
not
awful.
a great week for Joel.
Yeah, especially when you have to commute like an hour to work. That is not an easy thing to deal with, having a very important piece of your car missing.
Yeah.
On a more lighthearted note, I've actually had a really awesome week, even if it was a little exhausting. I started back up work again at the school that I substitute for, and they put me on a long-term assignment, which is different from my normal work because I'm actually grading and doing lesson plans. I'm really cosplaying as a teacher, and in this case, a physics teacher.
Oh, wow.
So
physics?
Yeah, I am literally almost a physics teacher.
What's crazy is that physics is just applied algebra. So at least in high school, that's what it was for me.
This class isn't going to feel like that, but also it will. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to how that's going, but also because it's so exhausting, I have a little bit less time for podcasting. So I'm really happy that we were able to record today. But through what Joel's been going through and what I've had going on this week, we didn't have a whole lot of time to record. So we were okay, it's going to have to be at the weekend and it's going to have to be a tight turnaround. So this episode might be a little bit shorter than normal because of that.
Yeah. And my week has happened. And it bears no relevance to the podcast at all. Things happened and I could talk about them. Anyway, one of the benefits of recording this on the weekend is great because we get to see the first batch of Rosetta spoilers are starting to roll through. We got 2 this weekend. Splatter Skull is a brute spoiler, which I bet me and Joel are very happy about. Joel, are you happy about it?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy about it.
I'm pretty happy about it too. It's a good card. They're giving brutes on hits.
I like that it's almost specifically a Reinar card too, as opposed to KO. I'm sure KO could find a way to use it if he really wanted to, but he's not gonna.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what the episode's going to look like today. So this is our Smogasbord episode. It's the third one we've done, where we pick 3 disparate topics and discuss them. So on red pitch, Fuzzy is going to be doing a this or that. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty classic game show. that he got inspired by from Arsenal Pass, was it?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily ripping them off, but I was listening to their last This or
You
That
can't rip
episode.
them off if they've already ripped off the idea from like so many other things.
Yeah, you can't rip off the Ripper, you know?
North American League of Legends, the competitive scene, has been doing a this or that game on their broadcast for like the past 4 or 5 years. Like,
Well, I was really enjoying listening to Arsenal Pass's episode where they did This or That, and I wanted to bring it to Pitum just in one segment, you know?
yeah, you definitely can't do a whole episode about it. It is perfect for Smorgasbord. And then on Yellow Pitch, Joel's going to be talking about intellect in hero design, and I'm going to be talking about designing for affordability.
Sweet.
So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into Red Pitch. Fuzzy, take it away.
All right. So for Red Pitch today, we're going to be doing a little this or that. I'm going to ask each of my hosts a question, and they're going to tell me which they'd prefer. Very low stakes.
Yes. And then we're going to argue about it.
Hopefully, yeah. If I can start some fist fights. You guys aren't even in the same room, but
I'll
find
mail
a way.
it to him.
I'll just mail him anthrax.
Yo!
so for my first question, this one is a little bit more geared towards Joel. LSS has announced, hypothetically, in the next set, that they're going to print either a light brute or a shadow warrior. Which gets you more hyped up?
That's that's hard because Brute getting access to Soul Shield, pretty dope. The more mid range, but Carrion Husk with Warrior.
Ooh.
I don't know. Oh man.
Clark, what do you think?
Brutes are already so heavily designed around like yellows as a pitch card.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
So
yeah.
like the amount of yellow sixes that we would get, you know?
And I also think like Shadow Warrior would just piss me off because it would highlight how bad Light Warrior is. So I'm going to say Light Brute is what I'd be most hyped for.
I think Light Brute as well, but I'm also like the Brute guy, right? I don't have the same warrior attachment that Joel
But you
has.
do like shadow heroes, right?
I do love shadow heroes, but like what does warrior need? Actually, you want to know what warrior needs? The ability to stack damage. And like, what's an easy way of stacking damage other than blood debt and taking a slight hit because of it? So like, Shadow Warrior could just fix the problem that the class has.
That is a really good point. I'm going to say both.
I think that's cheating. You'll get one both for the entire episode. Are you using it now or you're going to save it?
No, I'll save my both. I'll do Shadow Warrior.
Wow.
I'll go with Light Brute. I just want to see what they design in the yellow 6, yellow 7 slot and building a cost curve around just yellows.
I think I'm definitely leaning towards Light Brute as well. But
Because with Shadow Warrior, there's so many like bad shadow cards that they have a chance to make good again. Like Mutated Mass is what I'm thinking about. Also, like Guardian of the Shadow Realm is like a recurable defense reaction for Shadow, which I think would fit well into the play pattern. So if they do a good job with it, I think Shadow Warrior would be really sick.
Yeah. Just think about charging a random card from Soul, and if it's a 6, and
Oh, yeah.
and I like the aesthetic of a Light Brute who like he's like literally shining. He's got like holy energy, but he's still like a scary dude. Like just the anachronism. Like
yeah.
Okay, let's move on. I want you to picture you are 2-0 at a tournament. You have a good start. Would you rather your next game be an aggro mirror or a fatigue mirror? You're slightly invested in the tournament, right?
Yeah.
Is this armory level or calling?
Let's say somewhere in between, maybe a battle hardened. This is like not just an armory.
All right, Balharn San Diego. You sit down across the table. Do you want to see a fatigue mirror or a aggro mirror?
Do you want me to answer first or you go?
If you have an answer, go for it.
I think Fatigue Mirror.
Why?
Because aggro has so many variables that are out of your control that like if they draw the nuts and you don't, you just straight up lose the game. There's usually not a way for you to come back, especially if it's like over a certain threshold of life and at a certain point in the game. And Fatigue Mirrors, you have so much agency right when you sit down, and basically as soon as you start sideboarding. So if you're on a roll, if you're confident, then I think you should be able to win that, assuming that you have the right reps and practice on it.
You know, I'm going to answer for myself. I think I know how to play aggro mirrors better than fatigue mirrors.
Okay.
Right? And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I still have at least one more round of CC to play after that.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm already 2-0 and I'm already feeling some stress because, like, it's 2-0 and, like, this is the match that's going to determine if it's going to be easy or hard for me to get to the top tables.
Yeah.
Do I really want to be playing, like, a 55-minute go-to-time slugfest that might end in a draw? Fuck no. I want to play in an aggro mirror, get over and quick with, and, like, mental reset if I lose. Plus, again, like, just me personally, I know how to play aggro mirrors.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat to you, Clark. Like, the idea of, like, a grindy fatigue mirror where everyone is trying to make 0 mistakes in order to make sure that this game goes in their favor does sound like peak Flesh and Blood, but I also really love the excitement of an aggro mirror. They can be really swingy, and sometimes it's nice to know, like, if I win this die roll, I could get another win.
Yeah, right? Like, I'm going second. Hell yeah, baby, 50-50, I win.
And, like, yeah, it does suck to, like, lose that die roll, but I've also have times in tournaments where, like, I lose the die roll and I'm still able to pull it out, and those moments feel even cooler. Ready to move on?
Yeah.
Yep.
Would you rather see a new class be printed or a reprint of your favorite hero?
Like reimagined or
Well,
exactly reprinted?
Let's say, hypothetically, it could be either the hero, like Bolton, is like,
I have my answer.
it could be like the Katsu treatment, where Katsu came in Outsiders and he got some extra support, or it could be like the Prism Vincent treatment. I guess it'd be like more like Prism treatment, where like the same name but a new ability. I guess that'd be like the Kasai treatment.
New class. I think new class. I fell in love with Flesh and Blood for its design at the heart of the game. I've never been the like one-time hero guy. Like, this is my one hero. I want to see a new class. I want to see what fun and interesting ideas LSS puts in the game.
Yeah, new classes are pretty hype for me too.
I think for me, because Bolton has already had the Katsu treatment, I would like to see him get the Prism treatment. Just because Dusk Till Dawn didn't bring, and I think this is also like pre Brian Goats. So I think maybe if they had him do a whole set on Bolton, maybe it's like super gas and it fixes all of his issues. But if it doesn't, then I would definitely want like a new hero ability or whatever. And I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. It just depends on who's running it.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential, but it would be really sad if they reprinted like a new version of your favorite hero, but it's like not that good, you know?
Yeah, or like doesn't do the things that you love. Like,
The funny thing is, I think the new Prism was kind of like that for a while, but then eventually, I mean, Luminaris Angel's Glow came out.
Yeah.
But like eventually she was like, okay, back at the top of the meta, here we go, we're a real deck again. I think I'd prefer a new class personally, because like I said, those are really hype. Okay, next question. You have to ban one of these cards. Would you rather ban Findle Spring Tunic or Command and Conquer?
Tunic.
Command and Conquer.
Why Command and Conquer?
Okay. How do you play Command and Conquer, Joel?
To say fuck you, Riptide. And Azalea.
Okay. One, that's like good, but like Findalls for me just smooths out so many decks. And some of my favorite play patterns and designs for heroes are based around a cost curve of like, yeah, they're fine, but when you have Findalls, they're even better. And fuck CNC. That's why. CNC PsyOp, baby. It's bad and no one should be running it in their deck. Ban it, get rid of it. People actually have to be creative in their 2-for-6 disruptive pieces.
I forgot that we were psyopsing people about that.
Yeah. Get on board.
I think Fandles is a crutch. And if they just keep printing chess pieces for the class, it should be fine. And if you're relying on that extra resource, then that hero needs a buff. And CNC is like a tried and true way to target like Rangers in general, Riptide 2, and basically just be a solid form of disruption for every class, because every class uses the arsenal basically the same way. And I don't think the in-class arsenal disruption is as strong for some classes, so they rely on CNC. So I think the gap between like every class getting a CNC is larger than the gap of every class getting like a good chess piece, if that makes sense.
At an armory, would you rather play an S tier deck or an F tier garbage deck?
S tier. What? How is that or this or that?
What do you think, Joel?
If there's no XP involved, I don't really give a shit. So I'll just do the F tier deck. I've been playing Bolton for the last couple of weeks, so I'm kind of living my truth, you know?
I feel like a lot of people have this like aversion to, it depends on the type of player, right? Lots of people love playing the best deck, but there are lots of people who kind of like avoid playing the best deck, and they'd rather play like an underdog, like low tier hero.
Okay, but like for me, an F tier deck is like Rock. Do I want to take Rock? Do I want to take a Rock to my armory and go like 0-4 and like lose by 10 plus health every single game?
So people would love that.
And you know what? Fucking power to them.
Would you rather play in a high stakes limited event or a high stakes blitz event?
Blitz. Fuck limited.
High stakes limited. I believe in my skills.
You guys are so polarized today. I'm loving it. I don't even think this drama is like for the podcast. I think you guys are just being honest with me.
Yeah, I'm being 100% honest.
Limited is just the worst competitive format.
Sure.
Worse than Blitz.
Worse than Blitz.
I think.
I think that's 100% true. I agree with Joel's point. I just think that I do better in limited events.
You are good at limited, so I understand why you'd say limited.
Yeah, dude, I'm good. I'm good at that.
I feel like I can have more control in limited than I can have in blitz a lot of the time. But that's not to say that either of them is a really bad competitive format. I think I definitely enjoy both.
I think blitz is also a lot healthier now than it's been in the past. Yeah. And a lot of people like shitting on blitz as a format is based off of actually what it used to look like rather than what it's currently looking like. From the people who played blitz and the people who talk about the blitz format, they're saying that blitz is in a really healthy open spot right now.
Yeah.
So like I'm going to listen to them instead of person who has never liked blitz and keeps talking about how blitz is bad.
Sure.
True.
That's about all I've got. Do you guys have any off the cuff this or that questions you want to ask?
Nope.
No, I think I actually like the ones you brought up. I was trying to think of some of my own, but I couldn't.
Sweet. Well, that's all I've got. Let's keep the podcast moving. Joel, I hear you've got a really interesting topic for Yellow Pitch.
Yes, I want to talk about intellect in hero design. So for Yellow Pitch, I had a Discord member suggestion by the name of Mayo. He was asking about intellect between 3 and 5. Is it a design mistake? Is it like fundamentally broken? And I have also been thinking about that off and on. So I just wanted to talk about it today.
Yeah.
I'm also going to be specifically referring to hero card design and less about the card pool that the hero has access to, but that's still a factor. So first off, I just want to talk about what do you guys think are the main differences between card advantage and intellect? Because there's ways right now in the game that heroes can look at, like, for instance, the top of their own deck or the opponent's deck, and there's hero powers that let you draw extra cards. So what do you think you would define it as if you had to?
I think the main difference is just what you can do with the cards, right? So I'm assuming that a lot of the designs you're going to be talking about is like Levia's Demi Hero or like Kano, where they can do specific things to get access to extra cards in other zones, but that's still not in hand, right? In hand, you can play, pitch, and block.
Right.
And so like it's that flexibility that actually really makes gaining the extra intellect so much more broken, or how debilitating it is to have one less intellect.
I have nothing to add. That was a great explanation, Clark. I agree with you 100%. How'd we do, Joel?
There was no right or wrong answer. I like your answer, and I like your dittoing of that answer, Fuzzy. I think my definition is a lot looser because I think Flesh and Blood is so unique to other games that card advantage and intellect, I think, are basically synonymous. And that might be wrong because I'm not a game designer and I don't have to be right. But that's kind of how I feel about it. That's going to be the premise of this pitch.
Sweet.
So then I want to move on to, how do you guys think LSS evaluates intellect and pseudo-intellect or card advantage? Is there a point system, do you think? Because it seems like some heroes get access to more value and some heroes are a little bit more obscure in how we define it as strong or weak.
Yeah. Because, like, if you think about Kano, right? Mm-hmm. They're probably expecting Kano to play multiple cards off the top. And he has 30 health. So that is 5 less in Blitz and 10 less. So I guess you could say, like, a quarter of his life has been taken away.
Right.
To facilitate this pseudo-intellect ability.
Although, when I think of Kano having less health, the first thing I actually think about is not because of the sheer card advantage, but more because of the turn structure being perverted, specifically by Storm Striders as well. It's because, like, he almost gets an extra turn in the game, not that he has more cards that he's flowing through necessarily.
Yeah, I would, but, like, a part of that is that he can play off the top.
Right, but it's not the extra cards, it's the instant speed. Like, I see a separation there, personally.
I think it's both. Like, he's a special case because he abuses action point economy as well as card advantage and intellect turn by turn. So that's kind of a hard example to evaluate. But one thing that I was thinking about when formulating this pitch was whether or not someone should play -IO or -IE. That's Inventor Extraordinaire. Because the difference is, if you think about, for instance, Tekla Pounder, Inventor Extraordinaire can start out with it on the field, and once it's all used up, that's about 6 points of value. So -IO not only starts with 4 less life, but also as a baseline gets 6 less value from your hero ability. Of course, you can start with different items as -IE, but we're just using Tekla Pounder in this example because that's what was the main argument when this hero first released.
Yeah. It's also 6 points of value over 3 turns. They're probably going to throw an attack on each of those turns, but there is a world where the game is over before you get your max value from Pounder.
Right. So with -IO, basically the formula was if you can get more than 11 points of value through your hero ability, then it becomes better than -IE. But if you're getting anything less, then it's naturally worse. So that's kind of like why I was curious about how LSS evaluates intellect, because it's the same hero, but there's a clear point differential in this example.
Yes.
And so then that begs the question, how does LSS balance heroes within a set? Because there are some heroes who get bonus intellect or card advantage, and other heroes within that same set don't get that same treatment. And so if there's not a strict point value that you can derive from it, how do you balance the heroes? So for instance, with Part the Misfail, I would say Zen is a pretty big abuser of this because he, with his Chi ability, can get any card, which is technically card advantage and could be considered intellect enhancement, and also gets a Crouching Tiger. But Enigma and Nu, with their hero powers, don't get as much or any at all of that card advantage.
I don't know. That seems odd to me. One, because if we're talking card advantage, you're turning a Chi into any card in your deck, right? Technically, in terms of pure intellect, that is card for card. The difference is that you get to pick exactly what card that becomes, right? And that's a very good ability. Like, if Brute's got the ability to discard a card to go tutor out another card out of their deck, that would be the most cracked Brute ability in the game.
You also get a Crouching Tiger on top of that, which is a very empty card, but it is an extra card that you're getting.
It is, yes. And then with new, I would say it's all based on like matchup and how many blues you can actually get from your opponent, because presumably you could end up with 10 extra cards to play, provided you banished enough blues. So, and both of them have 40 life. I don't actually know if they associate a point value with it at all. I don't think they're looking at those sorts of, like, I don't think they have a heuristic or a framework in the same way that they have for attack actions, right? Like attack actions is a 0 for 4, 1 for 5, go again typically changes the power level of that, right? 0 for 3 with go again, 1 for 4 with go again. I feel like it's because it's so baked into how the hero is designed, they pay more attention to the card pools and let that drive the decisions behind how much value they think the hero abilities and these extra bits of card advantage can provide.
I would agree with that. I think if you're looking at like if a hero is strong, right? It can be strong in a couple different ways. Maybe it just gets extra might tokens whenever you discard something. Maybe it gets intellect literally, you know? But the equalizer is this hypothetical idea of being able to turn it all into points, right? 2 power is 2 points. 1 card is 3 points. Yeah. So if I'm able to get a card, an extra card per turn, that's probably like 3 points of value. And that's a very unreliable metric to talk about cards, right? Like there are many times, I just played a game with Clark the other day. I had 3 Artivores on the field and I drew 3 cards. And those 3 cards only turned into like 8 damage with 3 Artivores on the field. You know, it was a very unreliable like draw.
Yeah. I'd also say that like, not only is it an unreliable metric using this point value system because some things just straight up don't fit it.
Yeah.
But also because at the end of the day, that is simply one framework we use to try to, as game designers, drive how we design our cards, but then as players, how we evaluate those cards and determine if they're good or not.
Yeah.
I would say, let's look at another hero ability that doesn't necessarily do card advantage in the exact same way and has taken value away in a very unique way. KO. KO's hero ability turns every 5-powered card into a 6, essentially turning all of his blues into blue 6s, which is insanely good for Brute. It makes Brute incredibly more consistent, but they took away a weapon slot. What's the evaluation there? Are they just purely looking at Blood Rush Bellow turns? Do we look at the point system that way? Or do we realize that it's a lot more complex and nuanced because you can't look at direct point values?
It's such a slippery scale.
So, yeah, exactly. And now I want to go into another heavy hitters hero that I was thinking about a lot, which is Victor. So Guardian doesn't typically have any intellect on their hero power. Clark, you mentioned like Helm of Iceland's Peak. Not that anybody uses it, but it's an option for Guardians to get extra intellect.
It can be a decent budget option. You know, there's turns where like you Zealous Belting, Pop Helm, like it's there.
In Blitz, if you're on the play, it can be really good. Like turn 0, just like Arsenal and get an intellect. I have a 6-card hand now. What are you going to do?
Oh, create a Seismic Surge, pop it, gain an intellect?
Yeah. Anyway, continue.
Tarot, you trade a might token. But with Victor, I think like it sometimes feels like he has an extra intellect because as he's getting more popular as Zen continues his reign of terror, and every time you play against him, when he does like a trounce or a clash of or a test of strength, I think it's called, he just draws an extra card and has an extra card to block. And mind you, it's random because it's cards off the top, but the deck construction works in a way to where it's so consistent that he basically has an extra card every turn if you're attacking into him.
I would say... Sorry. I've been playing a lot of Victor recently, so I have opinions on that.
Yeah, go for it.
It's mostly just like... I think the current meta has actually made him really inconsistent. And he might have that consistency in some matchups, but not in other matchups. Like, right now... I'm actually taking my trounces out against KOs and illusionists, or specifically Prism because of heralds. But so many of my attacks are like 2 for 6s and not my 4 for 8s or my 6 for 10s.
Yeah.
So like it's actually kind of sketchy to leave in trounces against certain heroes and matchups. So I like it. The RNG is surprisingly matchup dependent, not in a different way from new, right? Where like being able to play all those extra blues, it can be matchup dependent.
For sure. And thankfully there are counters to Victor. Otherwise his hero power would just be insanely hard to deal with.
Yeah, that card said block 4, get a gold, draw a card. Like that is fucking stupid. I'm so happy that it's tied behind this clash mechanic.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of moving pieces that make it really frustrating for certain decks and then very minimal against others. Some other more clear definitions I would say would be like Ninja, although that's like card for card. Like for Katsu specifically, to get an on hit, you discard a card and get a brand new card, and that's card selection, that's card advantage, versus Zen, who just does it on the whim whenever he has a chi in hand. Some other examples, obviously the Shadow Rune Blades, like Chain, when he first came out, had the Soul Shackle tokens, which I'll read that out for the people who don't know. His hero ability said, once per turn action, create a Soul Shackle token. Your next Rune Blade or Shadow action card this turn gets go again. And Soul Shackle tokens say, at the beginning of your action phase, banish the top card of your deck. And what this would equate to is you'd basically banish cards off the top for each Soul Shackle token, and you'd essentially have 3 or 4 taking off in the late game, and you'd have like an 8-card hand or 7-card hand. And that's like a direct link to extra intellect or extra card advantage.
For sure. I like how Chain like gives you the go again that allows you to make use of your cards, as well as like gives you this fake extra hand size that potentially hurts you, but is definitely card advantage.
I think one last question I'd like to ask, and this is, and that's, would any of these heroes that we've talked about so far be different under like the Fab 2.0 design strategy? And I'm thinking mostly in terms of Kano, because we've mentioned that he's a unique case where he abuses action point economy, and he has a really powerful hero ability where he just trades cards for card advantage off the top of his library. And would it be different under 2.0, or are a lot of these hero designs just evergreen? Like it doesn't really make a difference whether or not they were printed now or later.
Well, I mean, like Chain, I don't think Chain ever gets printed today. I think that was a complete botch of a hero design where they thought that more cards would be staying in Blood Debt instead of giving Chain 4 to 5 extra cards to play every turn.
You know, that being said, I do think Chain has one of the coolest hero powers in the game. I think it like is well designed to produce a fun experience. Execution wise, like I could see a couple things being different. Like he's definitely too strong, but the way that like it has a give and a take, but the take is also a give, you know?
Yeah.
I think that produces a very appealing play pattern to players.
Oh yeah, it's very exciting, very compelling.
I also think that Kano could be printed today, and my evidence for that would be new Prism. Like we have heroes with very low HP, but they are still able to produce extra cards on the field almost for free, and they're actually kind of similar in my mind, Kano and New Prism.
Interesting.
Still very different. And the wizards that we're seeing now, I think, are really different than Kano. But I think that's more because they want to create something refreshing, not because Kano isn't something that they could design today.
Yeah. Like, we already have a Kano. Why design more things that create the same play patterns as Kano rather than flesh out and explore the space? Sort of like back in Bright Lights, right? Create new play experiences. Teklo is a very new play experience for mechanologists.
Yeah.
Which is a lot better and healthier than, say, building the exact same hero, but just make him a little different.
Yeah. Yeah, and we didn't even mention Tekla, but he has a very interesting hero power where he like explicitly plays with intellect with some of his evos that he uses on his headpiece.
Oh yeah.
And also having access to the extra zone. Clark, you already mentioned that using the banish zone with Levia and her dummy hero are extremely powerful effects, not expressly extra intellect, but being able to just have access to more cards is super powerful.
I mean, it's one of the most literal, like, card advantage through a hero design, right? Like, here is a series of cards that you can play, but you can only play one of them.
But yeah, that's pretty much all that I wanted to talk about with Intellect. I think this could be expanded to a larger episode. I think there's just so much nuance with hero design and what we consider card advantage and intellect without expressly being Intellect 5 or 3.
I absolutely agree, Joel. I would love to have a whole episode dedicated to like talking about hero design.
Yeah, so if you, the listener, found this interesting and you made sense of the word vomit that I'm known for, feel free to let us know in Discord. Other than that, I think we're just going to go to the blue pitch. Clark, what do you got for us?
Yeah. So if you guys have been following the podcast, you know that we've been posting more on social media. That's because I am chronically online and I wanted to improve our social media presence. As a result, I've been reading a lot of the discourse on social media. And the recent discourse on social media has been, is Fab too expensive?
Do they do this every 4 months or something?
Just about.
Is it that time of the year again?
Oh, look at the time. Time to go complain about CNC online. Why is it $80? I don't know, man. I agree with you, but again. So, is Fab too expensive? Now, this is actually what sparked this was that there was a video comparing the costs of top decks in all of the different TCGs. And they found that the two most expensive were Magic the Gathering and Flesh and Blood. Now, I didn't really watch this video because at the time I wasn't too interested in the topic. I was more interested in how the Fab community was responding to it. But a brand new deck, if you are starting from nothing, you come into the game and you're like, I want to play new. And then you just buy the top deck list that won the most recent tournament, you'd be spending upwards of $800, $900.
Sure.
That's kind of insane. And I don't think of Fab as an expensive game. You look at the cost of our boxes, they're cheaper. And if you look at the price of our Majestics and Legendaries, on average, they're cheaper than buying playsets of some of the most expensive cards in other games, right? Yep. Teklo Foundry Heart is a $12 legendary chess piece that every mechanologist runs.
Yeah.
What?
Yes, it is 12. There are listings on TCG Player that are $12.
Hold on, listeners. I'm looking this up right now. I might have to buy one. What the heck?
It's because they printed no foil copies in Bright Lights, they reprinted it.
No, it's the same cost as the rainbow foils.
Oh, dang.
That's sub $20. That's crazy.
It's so cheap. So, I don't think of Fab as an expensive game as someone inside the Fab community, but I totally understand why someone first jumping into the game would see some of the prices for some of these decks and really balk at that, especially because they're the ones winning right now.
It's that's the hoop.
Yeah.
It's the first step to getting into the game is the hardest. And maybe that's another part of why it's so hard to get newer players to play this game. It's already a very competitive format where you're going to lose a lot of games at the beginning. Even if you sink your $200, $300, $400 into CNCs and a Tunic, you're still probably not going to be succeeding right away. It's a very uphill battle just to get into the game.
Yeah. So we've talked already about what exactly makes a deck expensive, right? And it's typically playsets of generics that fill holes that the class design doesn't fill. So Assassin is a perfect example. So one, I want to note, Assassin is the newest class, which means that they have the smallest card pool. They have just been printed less times. They didn't get any of those supplemental set releases, right? There was no Crucible of War for them. There was no Dust to Dawn for them. They came out in Dynasty, and then they got a printing in Outsiders and a printing in Part the Mistveil. That's all they've had so far. They are the most underprinted class. So it makes sense that they, in their design, have a lot of holes that need to be filled by generics. They are explicitly reliant on disruption, but they don't have enough disruption already in their class. So they have to turn to generic cards. So they're running CNCs and Amnesias and Weakest Links. And on their own, probably none of these cards would be that much, but having to run a full playset of each of them really ramps up the cost of the deck. And the thing is that Amnesia, the moment that Zen isn't good, it's going to tank in price again.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
go for it.
ahead.
No. I've been talking too long.
Yeah, Erase Face, I think, is under $5, and that was also a $20 Majestic at one point, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because at the time, Mechanologist and Viserai as the Rune Blade were very, very strong and present in the meta, and it shut down those decks. So they're going to be investing in generics that are going to be expensive for metas and then get reduced back to cheap again. So if you're a new player coming in and again looking for these top decks, playing these top disruptive generics, they're going to be worth a lot of money, and then you're going to lose that value the moment that the meta shifts. Whereas players who have been in the game for a long time, maybe we got those cards when they were a little $5 Majestic, and then they jump up to 35, but that's fine. It's not like we're turning and burning them. It's just do I have a deck that can run these? Right. And then we include them in our deck. So I have noticed that the cheapest decks are siloed. They don't have to run these generics that can spike in cost. They only have to run their class cards. Sometimes it's because they're forced to. Mechanologist and the boost mechanic.
Sure.
Or Wizard. Kano is one of the cheapest competitive decks out there right now. It's $300, $400. It's very, very cheap.
Yeah, most of the cost is wrapped up in Storm Striders.
Yeah, in terms of individual card printings.
He's literally running Ragamuffin's hat as his best in slot headpiece.
Yeah. So, do you guys think that more heroes and more classes should be designed with these hyper siloed designs, right? Designs that specifically force you to pretty much only play class cards? Or do you prefer these assassin designs where you're encouraged to run this rotating set of Majestics?
That's such a good question.
It's also spreads out the entry curve, because with the plus side to having these really expensive generics is I can use them on all my decks. So I pay $400 at the start, and then I only have to pay $50 to $100 for my legendaries to get these other decks. But if I sink $300 into a Mechanologist deck, and then I play it for a while, and I'm happy, and then I want to go play Ninja, I have to pay another $300, $400 hypothetically if all these classes are so separate and siloed. So it's I still am paying money for every new deck I want to build, but the first one doesn't cost as much, It's spreading out the entry curve.
I have a reason not pertaining to affordability. Is it okay if I mention it, Clark?
Sure.
Totally.
So I think I really don't like the siloing of design, specifically because, and it actually pertains to Assassin as well, it increases the amount of polarizing matchups, I feel. If you're doing one thing really well, but you get countered by something, if you don't have enough room for generics, then you're just countered by that strategy. Dash can't run any generics, really, because you need to have everything be boostable. And so you can't run things like Command and Conquer for Azalea, or Warmongers for Azalea, or
Weakest Link for Zen.
Or D-Reacts for Guardian or whatever. You need to completely change how you build the hero, which inevitably makes you invest in more generics and the class Majestics and legendaries that you normally run. So I think siloing is cool flavor wise and playstyle wise, but I like the fact that I can add more generics to deal with the meta. I think that's the reason why I did so well with Kasai, was because I was able to do my thing that Kasai wanted to do, but I still had like, Ripple Away. I had Hold the Line to deal with like whatever the meta had at that time. So I personally like the adding generics as needed.
I think that's a really great point and segues wonderfully into my next point, which is LSS is starting to print class cards that can fill the role of these generics, or giving certain classes hate cards that are maybe worse off in the generic slot. So for that second point, I'm specifically thinking Brute and their item hate, right? Smashing Performance and Arg Smash are the premier ways of destroying items. And even when mech is like doing well in the meta, it's not like people are thinking about running Smashing Good Time. At the same time, we just saw Splatter Skull, and like I was saying in the like I was saying in turn 0, it's disruption, hand disruption specifically. No need to run Pummel. We have a Brute card now that can do it, that synergizes with the Brute strategy you were already playing. You intimidate the card, and then you can come in with this, essentially giving it discard on hit.
Yeah, if I can't afford Command and Conquer, this makes it a lot better for me to be able to play this deck comfortably and viably.
Yeah. Or they're siloing it, like with Strength Rules All, right? It's like, yes, this will destroy Arsenal, but only based on the damage it deals and the power of the attack in Arsenal.
Yeah.
Or like Send Packing too, right? Does the same thing, just banishes.
Yeah, banishes, and then it's an on hit to get rid of it. So I'm looking at how they've been trying to add some of those. Now, I did mention a lot of Brute examples here. So admittedly, like maybe I'm just like focusing too much on my Brute oriented perspective, but it does feel like they are willing to start giving these mechanics to classes that feel like they need it or that they have to run it. I would also say that the reliance on generics for some assassins went down once they printed Bonds of Agony and Persuasive Prognosis, because it gave them an opportunity to get that hand disruption without needing to play the generics. It gave them a class-oriented form of disruption.
And now they just play all disruption.
Yes.
Yeah, and to step away from like the whole Brute-centric examples, Warrior also got some pretty like okay disruption. Like they have Commanding Performance, which is essentially a CNC if they block with attack actions. It's more hoops to jump through, but it does buff your warrior attacks, and you can slap it on any warrior attack. So in that right, adds more synergy within your class and keeps the disruption. You still probably want to run CNC over that because it's so inherent on blocking, but at least it's just showing that LSS is like on a mission to slowly integrate this disruptive slew of generics to the rest of the classes, and not just like very specific hate cards. Like I feel like Brute in general was like the premier way of destroying items, and we've seen a few examples of how they're trying to add that to like the generic pool, and I think they're going to make a full circle and add item destruction to like other classes in some flavorful way, hopefully.
Yeah. This kind of ties back to when we talked about, I think it was generics, and I had a pitch on like hate cards and whether hate cards should be generic or class oriented. I want to now move on to another aspect of designing for affordability, which is print structure. So we here at Pitch It To Me Podcast don't think that card design is just what's printed on the card, but how you get those cards in your hands, right?
Sure.
We talk about release structure and spoiler season. We talk about how LSS has designed their game, also from a businessy sort of standpoint. In this way, I want to talk about expansion slot cards, because expansion slot cards, at least some of them, have carried a very high cost premium with them. Now, admittedly, I wrote this point and then I went and did some research on TCG Player. there are three expensive expansion slot cards, two of which were in Bright Lights. So maybe it was just the fact that Bright Lights was like under opened, or like there was a print run shortage, sort of like what happened with Surgical Extraction. But expansion slot cards can carry a premium. They can be very, very expensive. And if they are printing direct support that heroes feel like, that people feel like they need in their class in the expansion slot, it's going to increase the cost of those cards. The examples here that I'm specifically thinking of is Already Dead and Smashing Performance.
I think you should add Tome of Imperial Flame to that list. It was at $30 in like its heyday, and after Dromai rotated, it certainly dipped, but it definitely lines up with, I think, the point you're trying to make.
Yeah.
It's also another Bright Lights.
Another Bright Lights card. The non-Bright Lights card that's very expensive right now is Ancestral Harmony, which was printed in Heavy Hitters. It's a ninja card that's run in Zen right now. It's about $17. So do we think that this expansion slot strategy of release, is it healthy for the game from a financial standpoint? Because we know that it's kind of taken the place of the supplemental sets, where, yes, the cards would still be worth something, especially if they saw play, but you could get them probably a little bit more reliably from boosters. And they would probably be a little bit less expensive.
I think as a whole, LSS should not be printing for like the secondary market. It like hinders them in a weird way, and it's something that they can't really control about, you know, how players want to use their cards.
Yeah.
But it's expansion slot cards have had this history of like shooting up really expensively, and a lot of these cards are cards that heroes really need to be usable in the meta. So naturally they're going to like skyrocket in price. So I think they eventually should find a way to reintegrate supplemental sets or some new way of adding a lot of cards outside of the main sets and get rid of the expansion slot cards. Because I think they've been doing a good job lately of printing really solid cards, and the ones that we're looking at in whatchamacallit, Rosetta look pretty strong. So if we keep going down this path, it's just going to be like more of this, like usually only the assassin tax where all of the majestics are like super expensive and just apply to all the heroes, and then you have a really big problem.
Yeah.
So I think overall, I'm like not happy with expansion slot cards in terms of how it's been affordable.
Yeah.
I agree with you in the sense that there are side effects to having these chase majestics being printed in every set. And I feel like if I say that, because if people who listen to the pod, they think I'm talking about like there only being 14 cards in draft, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just meaning like the sheer frequency of majestics that are being added to the game at a higher rate than some commons and uncommons. It makes like decks being like full of like majestic soup. Kind of like where Assassin's at right now.
I mean, my Victor list is almost half just raw majestics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I have.
You guys want to move on to our Arsenal Zone?
Fuck yeah,
Cool.
I do.
Listeners, our Arsenal Zone is the part of the podcast where we shout out a card that we've been thinking about lately for whatever reason we want. Clark, you want to start?
Sure. So the card that I have selected today, it came up very naturally in conversation in Joel's yellow pitch, unless that section was cut, in which case I haven't talked about this at all today. Trounce. Trounce is a card that I'm doing a lot more thinking about. Trounce is a majestic that's pretty much only really played in Victor. It's a Guardian card, and it says clash twice. After the first clash, put the card to the bottom and then clash again. If I win both clashes, I get a gold, might, and vigor token. And if my opponent wins both clashes, they get a gold, might, and vigor token. And if we tie on any of them, or if I win one and they win one, nobody gets anything. It's just a 3-block card. So it's a bad card, right? Like, it just blocks 3.
What do you mean by bad?
Like it just blocks 3, right?
That's
Like
not
it doesn't.
what I expect you to say.
It doesn't even like. It doesn't have an attack value. It doesn't pitch for a lot.
Okay, I'm biased because I only play heroes where whenever you play Trounce, I already know you're going to get the Gold Vigor Might and draw a card off of it. So I'm like, yep, there's his power card. The reason he picked this hero so he can Trounce me. Like Trounce is like a good card.
Yes, it's a card that rewards you for deck building around it, but at the exact same time, adding it and other cards with similar effects like Tests of Strength, it weakens it. And what I've been finding in this meta is that Trounce is getting swingier and swingier, and I'm seeing the holes in its value. I don't think Trounce is a great card. And I think that a lot of victors should be thinking about how likely it is that they actually run it or not.
You know why I like the Arsenal Zone so much? I learned the most about Clark through Arsenal Zone. He does the most growing and self-reflection in this fucking section.
I love it.
You can probably find some episode somewhere where I'm like, Trounce is the most cracked card in existence. Victor's like the best hero that they've ever printed because of Trounce.
Yeah, he also like uses the Arsenal Zone. Clark, I say as if he's not sitting right next to me, but he likes to use the Arsenal Zone when he's like realized something about the game recently. And like, that's what I love about this podcast and about this little Arsenal Zone thing is we can talk about whatever we want, you know?
Yeah. Joel, what about you? What card have you been thinking about this week?
So I wrote down solar plexus, but then I went back to the notes a couple episodes ago and realized I already talked about solar plexus.
Yeah, it's been 2 episodes. Do you think we can maybe get that window a little larger?
Yeah. So I am going to be talking about something else, and it is glaring impact.
What the fuck is glaring impact?
Is that a Flesh and Blood card?
So for the unanointed, glaring impact is a light warrior attack action. Surprise, surprise. It costs 1, 3 block. Thank God. Attacks for 4. And it says, as an additional cost to play this, you may charge your hero soul. If a yellow card is charged this way, this gets overpower. And in case you have a memory of a goldfish, I just said this power is 4 with overpower. This is essentially a 3-card, 4-power overpower with no go again. No on hit either. It's just 4 damage.
And can be perfectly covered by a Sink Below or Fate Foreseen in Arsenal.
Mm-hmm. And you need to charge a yellow. So I want to ask you both, what the fuck am I supposed to be doing with this card versus Zen?
Versus Zen?
Well, Zen.
Because this is supposed to be like a staple common that they released in Dust Dawn. They were like, in this set that you can't play in limited, you're gonna use this card. Where do I use it?
So I'm not saying this card is good. I have no clue why LSS didn't decide like that they could give it 5 power, you know? I don't know why they're so afraid.
1 for 5 with no go again conditional overpower seems fine.
Like, I don't know if like the fact that it lets you charge is worth an entire point, or the fact that if you charge and it is a yellow, it gets overpower is worth an entire point. But hear me out. This is me playing devil's advocate.
Okay. Oh god.
It does get a lot. It does get a lot better when you can stack it with pumps, which they did put some like interesting pumps in this set, like attack reactions
and attack reactions. Yeah,
attack reactions and attack reactions. So that would be like where this gets a little better. And you said against Zen. I don't know why you picked Zen in particular, but he either has non-blocks or 2 and 3 block attack actions. So he's only going to be blocking with 1 card. This card actually is probably going to leak damage against Zen if you charged it.
This card is also technically on rate with Take Flight, which is a 1 for 4 that on charge gains go again.
Yeah, if you compare it to bad Bolton cards, then yeah, this looks like a decent
Take
card.
Flight's like the best Bolton card. You shut your mouth.
So Clark kind of said the answer. It's fucking trash. It's trashier than the trash of Bolton cards. The correct answer is you use it as a fucking coaster. You use it as like a thing you fold up and put under your chair.
You toss it at the player to distract them, and then you like move their board around.
You sharpen the cardboard and you slit the fingers of your opponent so they can't hold their cards anymore. Like, I just wanted to use this Arsenal Zone to bitch a little bit more because I've been trying to hone my bitching about Bolton cards. But like this is the state of Bolton right now. This is like pre-Brian Goat, but like in case anyone is wondering why.
No, Dustildon
upset
came out
about
after
Bolton.
Outsiders.
Yeah, but he could have been like working his way into more and more projects.
He may not have been associated with Dustildon.
Yeah, so we need to empower Brian Go to kick out whoever printed this card. The art is cool. The card just sucks. So anyways.
I would say that it is coming from a place of like, hey, Take Flight is a 1/4 that when it charges gains Go Again. If we consider Go Again and Overpower to be reasonable values, then it's a 1-to-1. The extra condition of charging a yellow card is frustrating. Like, why is that extra condition on here for seemingly no other benefit? But they also printed a lot of cards with charging a yellow card. Mm-hmm. I would also say that this card gets a lot better in a limited context, where you can more comfortably put people into must-block scenarios and play your longer game. Because, like, obviously this isn't being played in Blitz. Not fucking fast enough for Blitz. But, like, maybe this is a card for Cube. Maybe.
Yeah, it has to be Cube because it wasn't a limited legal set.
That's certainly where my mind goes is let's put it in a Cube.
Yeah, and the fact that it costs 1 is really the biggest disrespect because that's like the most glaring example of like you don't understand Bolton at all is giving it a 1 cost.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's my rant. That's my card.
Oh, so it's my turn now. Okay.
Yes. Go ahead.
Let's leave that in.
So with Rosetta coming up, I'm just excited about like all the new heroes and how they could relate to the old Tales of Aria card pool. So I'm shouting out a Tales of Aria card. A lot of Tales of Aria cards are like aggro oriented. Like you have big earth cards that are pushing big attacks. Think like Bramble Spark. Like, do you think the Florian is going to play Bramble Spark? I don't know. It's really hard to tell because it doesn't really lead in with the making tokens game plan that Florian has. But I do think that Aurora could conceivably play Vela Flash. I think Clark might have even mentioned this card specifically. Vela Flash is a 1-cost, 3-block, attacks for 5. So it's like a critical strike. It's the power and curve that Glaring Impact is supposed to have. And then if you fuse it, you can play your next non-attack action card this turn as though it were an instant. So you could play Vela Flash, fuse it, play some like non-attack lightning card or something, and then hopefully the Go Again from that non-attack will give you your action point back and you continue on with your turn. So I'm excited to play old Tales of Aria cards. I have 2 here, and I brought a copy to sign and give to you, Clark and Joel.
Ooh, bro, I cannot wait to run my fuzzy signed Vela Flash and Aurora. It's going to be so fucking gas.
I'm a little upset I didn't get a sign of Bramble Spark so I could play it in Florian, but I'm very happy that I got Vela Flash.
You know, I'm not going to make any promises, but just vibes-wise, I feel like you could go back and find one, because how have I not signed a Bramble Spark for you guys?
You signed a Force of Nature.
Yeah, but like a Bramble Spark. How have I not shouted out Bramble Spark? I guess I have my Arsenal Sword for next week. Spoiler alert.
All right. I think that's it. I think that's the podcast.
Yeah, I think we thought this was going to be a short episode, but it wasn't. You're welcome, listeners.
Or Joel cut it down to be a proper short episode.
I don't think that's
cutting
going to
it to
happen.
45 minutes.
Why would you do that? It takes longer to make a shorter episode than it does to make a longer episode. So we apologize if this is an hour and 20-minute episode, listeners.
It's not going to be that.
And you're welcome if it's a 45-minute episode.
Schrodinger's episode length.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
If you like any of these topics, feel free to let us know, and we'll do maybe a whole episode on it if you're passionate enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bye. We love you.
So long.
Bye.
Pitch It To Me podcast is hosted by Fuzzy Delp, Clark Moore, and Joel Recinos. Our executive producer is Talon Stradley. Music by Dillon Hulse. Logo by Han V. and sound mixing by Christopher Moore. Last but not least, we'd like to thank you, the listener. Thank you for tuning in. Please give us a follow on your favorite social media platform at Pitch It To Me Podcast.